My next guest on Late Night in Tigard is Kenny Asher, the City of Tigard's Community Development Director. Kenny, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm excellent. It's really good to be here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thanks for joining us. And I want to start by asking you about the citywide facilities consolidation project, which my first question for those that may not speak bureaucratese like I've had to learn to do. I know you're an expert at it. You're fluent.
But thank you.
Tell us what that project's about.
The idea is to consolidate all of our city services, pretty much all of them, in one building downtown, and to use our surplus property downtown to develop a lot of housing, a lot of affordable housing. So the benefits of doing something like that are pretty extensive. We've got a lot of facilities challenges, both in terms of the facilities themselves and the maintenance and repairs that we're looking at, and also running out of space, especially in the police department, not to mention seismic codes that we can't meet.
So let me ask you a little bit about that. I'm gonna give you a little trivia questions and test here. So how many square feet approximately was the police department when it was built in 1986? You got any idea?
I'm gonna guess 20,000 feet.
How about 11,400 square feet?
It's even worse.
And how many staff was that designed for?
That I think I know, about 35.
Okay, you got that one, nice.
Okay.
2021, how many staff do we have?
In the police department, I think we've got 130 or some.
I think it's about 97 if you count sworn personnel plus support staff. So
a lot more than 30.
Yeah, a lot more than 35 for sure. And the square footage of the police department's increased a little bit, but not much. And it's yeah. So I'm glad that I can test you on this a little bit. How many square feet of storage unit space do you think the police department has full of evidence and property that has been seized and or equipment and gear? You got any ideas? It might be more than your house.
I don't know. I just know that they don't have room for it.
Yeah, how about almost 3,000 square feet of rented storage?
I know that the police department is leasing space, Public Works is leasing space. That's the other thing people don't understand. We're already spilled over. We are already leasing space. I know that's true.
My sense is that we're really trying to solve multiple problems by sort of implementing this program or project. Why don't you tell us from your perspective what the major problems are that we're solving? I mean, we were just talking about the size of our facilities and how they were designed initially, but what other problems are we going to get to be able to solve through this?
Man, there are so many, unfortunately. And I think the first one is really about money. It's really about the cost. These are older buildings, and they're expensive.
They look nice from the outside.
They do.
What would you say to that?
They do. The city's done a good job of keeping up the exterior and the grounds. But anybody who owns a home knows that all of the big costs are in sort of the hidden systems, roofs and sewer systems, HVAC systems, and the city has to worry about those things. And I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's that public emergencies, health emergencies do happen, and the government, the city, state, the federal government really has an important role to play in keeping everybody as safe as possible.
So our choice here is to put money into our current facility, kind of pour more money into it. I think at a council meeting last week, I was kind of relating that to putting a new engine in your 1983 Honda Civic, which
Right.
Now that you've got a much bigger family, maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And at the end of the day, it's still a 1983 Honda Civic. What did you think of my comparison there to the old Honda?
That's absolutely right. This is about, like so many of the choices the council has to make, what's the smart investment? Because we're going to pay. The community is going to pay. You don't get a free ride because facilities it's just infrastructure. I mean, we think about keeping the water system up to date. We think about keeping our parks up to date and clean and modern. We have to think that way about these facilities as well. And let me tell you, the facility costs, which are maybe hidden behind that nice nice veneer of these buildings, that bill is going to come due. So one way or another, we're going to pay.
Now you're saying we're going to have to pay, but I want to challenge that a little bit because the plan that we've put forward doesn't involve more taxes. So speak a little more about that.
So when I say we have to pay, what I mean is right now we know that the police station needs a new roof. We know it needs to be expanded. We know that it probably needs new sewer lines. We don't know if that sewer line replacement is even possible. That's just one building. We've got 5 buildings downtown. One of them was built in the 1950s. So to keep these buildings going...
Our IT building, I might
right.
add, right? The
Yes.
irony there.
Right. So to keep those buildings going, we're going to have to make these repairs. We're going to have to make these capital expenses.
And not only is many of the needs not met from a size perspective, but there's also safety and security issues at the police department, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately we experienced just how worrisome that can be a couple of weeks ago, where we have a campus that is unsecured because this campus that we're working out of today in downtown Tigard, you know, it wasn't really designed for all of the functions that it has to accomplish now. And we have the opportunity here, as you mentioned, without raising taxes, to design and build a 21st century civic center, city hall, police station that would meet resiliency needs and climate change concerns, safety and security, efficiency. We would be able to design a city hall appropriate for a city that is growing like Tigard.
Well, and we're the biggest landholder in downtown right now, and we don't use our land very well, right?
No.
I mean, it's like not very dense and not very well used.
Right. We've got single-use, single-story buildings with lots of surface parking.
It's what someone like you hates to see, right?
Well, I think everybody in Tigard wants a downtown where they can come in the evening and stroll and eat dinner and, you know,
have some excitement.
yeah, and we're not helping with our current layout. That's okay. But you asked about housing. You know, we have 13.5 acres downtown, city property.
Was that surprising to you when you figured, like, you all counted it up and you were like, wow, that's a lot of acres?
A little bit. And you know what's sort of amazing about it is that a lot of it is just used for parking and for a public works maintenance yard. Like, you don't have to be a community development director to know that if you want a vibrant downtown, you probably shouldn't put a maintenance yard for your public works facility down there. So we have a lot of legacy uses in the downtown, and it's only now finally starting to become the downtown that everybody wants. But the number one thing that you need to have an exciting downtown is residential uses.
People.
You need to have people down there, but not just visitors. You need to have people that live down there, because people that live downtown, they will be there in the evenings, they will be there in the mornings, they're there all the time, and they care a lot about their neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to do downtown, is to make a neighborhood, and it's starting. The Atwell Off Main project that went in a few years ago has been tremendously successful. If we can shrink our footprint for how much land we're using for our office, we then have, you know, many, many acres to sell for redevelopment. And we project about 500 units of housing. That's like 3 Atwell Off Main projects right there at Hall and Burnham.
Really
it's a
significant.
lot of housing. And I also want to mention, a lot of that could and will be affordable housing. We don't want just market rate housing, because we all know how expensive that is. We want all kinds of people being able to live downtown.
Well, Mr. Asher, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me on Late Night in Tigard. Really appreciate it. And see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.